Hey class, welcome to your first class of teaching creative writing, uh, both a graduate and undergraduate dual listed course at the University of Central Arkansas. Uh, this is, of course, not the optimum condition. I would have liked to have met you in class, in the classroom for the first day, but because of pandemic, it doesn't look like that's possible. Um, Anyways, this is your first class. It has an assignment at the end. Um, I'll introduce myself. People think of me as that fish writing guy. I've done a lot of fish research, mostly in the area of monster fish. Um, but I'm also a poet, a novelist, a memoirist, an editor, um, hiker. Um, anyways, we'll get to your introductions when you get to the classroom. There's going to be a lot of reading in this course. Um, so let's see. Let's just get into the syllabi. I have not posted the syllabi yet. I will post the syllabi after this class, after this video class is over, and you can read it for yourself. So at this point, I encourage you to take notes, and if you have any questions, bring them to the next class, because if you have questions, other students will probably have similar questions. Okay, so um, here's the syllabus. I'm going to read from the graduate uh, student syllabus basically because it has a little more information. Both these syllabi are pretty much the same. There's 5 graduate students in the course, I believe, and 8 undergrads at this point. Um, okay, so this class is scheduled to take place 5 to 8 p.m. on Thursday evenings in Wynn Thompson 104. My office hours are 1 to 3 every Wednesday um, if you want to drop in and talk to me, masked in my office. You can also set up an appointment if you have questions or concerns. I can meet you before or after other classes I teach on campus, and will always can give you a range of possible times that we could meet. We can also talk by phone or talk on Zoom if you send me a link. Um, my office phone number is listed there on the syllabi, which you will see, 450-3339, and my email is also listed on the syllabi, emmaspitzer@uca.edu. Um, I will always respond to emails. I get those all day long. I will respond to them when I can. Office phone, I'm not always in the office. If you call up, I might not be there. It might be the next day or next week that I get your voicemail. So go with the email if you can. Okay, let's get to the special COVID information. Um, the UCA mask policy reads, all students are expected to comply with the university policy regarding face coverings. This means that if campus is on red status, which it pretty much always is, everyone wears a mask in the classroom to protect each other. And I'm talking fully wearing a mask. No nostrils, no chin diapers. If anyone refuses, I will ask them to leave. If anyone does not comply, I will call the UCA police and have them removed from the classroom. As for social distancing, we will abide by whatever measurements UCA prescribes. You want to drink something in class? Fine. If we're on red status, bring a straw and slip it under your mask. This ain't a cafeteria. Eating should be done before or after class, not in class. I don't want to see any nostrils. If you're one of those people that just puts the mask there under the, I'm gonna I'm going to point you out. I'm going to ask you to raise your mask. Other students might ask you to do the same. I don't want one COVID particle being released into this classroom and going up anybody's nose. So we got to protect each other. I also recommend that everyone brings hand sanitizer and cleaning materials to wipe down desks. We will have some of that stuff in the classroom, which you can use. But, you know, in the classroom, sometimes there will be pieces of paper going around, there will be books going around. You will be expected to pick stuff up and, you know, hand it to other people. Sometimes you'll be doing group work and you'll have to write on a piece of paper. So if that wigs you out, make sure you have your own hand sanitizers so you can wash as frequently as you want. We won't judge you, it's okay. Uh, do not come to class if you have any possible COVID symptoms, are in contact with anyone who with the virus who has tested positive or has been told that they should quarantine or has and if you have any reason to think that you might possibly be infected, do not take that chance of infecting anybody else. Whether you are asymptomatic or not, stay at home, contact me, we'll work stuff out. Course description. This course is designed for students who may be teaching creative writing or including creative writing in their curriculum at the K through university levels. Areas to be covered include the history of creative writing pedagogy, fancy word meaning teaching, up to and including modern pedagogical approaches to the field. In addition to discussions and lectures, students will observe and describe creative writing classes at levels pertinent to their teaching interests and develop an integrated practice lesson. That's the course catalog description, and for both the grad and undergrad students. The grad description includes this following sentence, though. This course will be a more rigorous study of teaching creative writing than the undergraduate course, in that it requires semester-long research for a major paper and more in-depth readings on the complex issues involved, meaning grad students will have a little more complex reading involved in their study, and grad students will be expected to write a 3 to 5 page paper, which is major for many of you, at the end of the semester. Grad students will also be asked to respond in a bit more detail on their assignments. Okay, the objective. The goal is for you to get a solid understanding of creative writing history and pedagogy, especially in the United States, to apply to your own teaching strategies in writing, creative writing, English, or any other disciplines that incorporate components of creative communication. Even if you don't go into such a field as creative writing, this class will provide both critical and creative approaches to envisioning your own creative projects for teaching creative writing and similar courses. You will experiment, observe, create, and have fun, but you will also work hard and be expected to understand and utilize some highly sophisticated pedagogical forms and techniques while developing a few of your own. Overview. This will be an in-person class and hopefully remain so. We will assume that we can meet each week until any adverse conditions change that. If we have to go online, we will, but we won't do Zoom. I'll post videos. Why won't we do Zoom? Because I've seen my wife teaching on Zoom. I've seen other teachers teaching on Zooms. Some people aren't there. They just got a black screen. People have problems with mics. I've been on sabbatical for a year. I have not been teaching. I have not been involved in this technology. I am out of it. I'm trying to keep things simple for me. And you may know how to speak the language of Zoom, and I forgot. I'll get it back. I'm trying to remember right now the language of Blackboard. And have patience with me on Blackboard, because this is how you're going to be handing most stuff in. I've only done it once. That was a year ago. I'm trying to get back up to snuff. Okay, where are we? We won't do Zoom. I will post videos for you and assign group work or whatever. If we have to go online, we'll figure it out. Whatever the case, Blackboard will be your connection to me. It will be how you hand work in, and you should expect some confusion, as I mentioned, as I transition back to this technology. And if you can provide me any pointers, like if you're not seeing something come up in the right window or something, just please let me know, and I will appreciate that. Meanwhile, we will study the history and theory of creative writing pedagogy from the perspective of both the insider and the outsider. And to accomplish that, a lot of reading will be involved. Most of the instruction you receive will be focused on college level teaching, but we will also look at methods and approaches for teaching children and young adults. We will have discussions, watch videos, maybe hear from a guest lecturer, and you will do research in the form of interviews. You will study theory and techniques of established authorities, and you will invent some exercises of your own. There will be occasional group collaborations. We will discuss the guidelines for the final portfolio in class. Also, because this is a dual listed class, undergrads and grads, I'm going to treat the undergrads like graduate students. Whereas the grad students will be expected to respond to assignments in more detail, undergrads will be given the same amount of theory as grad students. This is because undergrads will be challenged at the graduate level. Undergrads will gain more of an understanding of graduate studies. Wait, this is because undergrads will be challenged at the graduate level. That's my point. And they'll gain more of an understanding of graduate studies. And ultimately, undergrads will, okay, and grad students will be, okay, whatever. Grad students will also be required to write a short theory-based paper as part of their final project, as I mentioned earlier. Because this class is taught during most people's dinner time, we will have a 15 to 20-minute intermission during each weekly class. So bring a meal or a snack if you like, or fuel up before class. Generally, we'll go an hour into the class and then we'll take a break. In general, the first half of the class will be reserved for lectures and discussions and overall class business, and the second half will involve writing games, in-class activities, group work, experimentation, and fun stuff in order to lend a direct action approach to you eventually developing your own assignments and exercises. All classes will be recorded on audio files that I will later post on Blackboard for those who couldn't make it. These recordings, however, should not be thought of as an alternative to coming to class because they will not include your participation if you are not there. If you're not there to participate in class, then you will not be keeping up with the others. Come to class. Don't think that you can get by just by listening. Requirements and expectations. Students in this class must use their UCA emails on a regular basis to receive important information. Basically, I will announce stuff on Blackboard and those emails will go out to you. So you'll get the announcements on Blackboard, but you'll also get emails of the announcements. Students must come to class, do the work, hand assignments in on time, cooperate with each other, and communicate effectively. Students are responsible for keeping themselves up to date and knowing what is expected of them. Students are expected to come to class prepared and discuss whatever the subject matter is, meaning if you miss a class, catch up, talk to somebody, listen to the recording, find out what's expected of you, and do it. And if you get COVID and you're feeling like death for a week or two, I'll work with you. We'll figure it out. Basically, a lot of the assignments I give you, well, you'll basically have a month to get them in. I want everybody to be able to get their work in and to get responses. All assignments, projects, etc., anything turned in for credit should be typed with standard 12-point font on a standard word processing program. Save whatever document you create to your own computer or your own storage system in your own storage space, cyberspace, Google Drive, whatever, disks, but submit your work on Blackboard. It's advisable to save files in more than one place as well, so that if, don't just save your stuff on your computer, because your computer goes down, you lose everything, so have backup. Also, bring the appropriate text for every class. I'll let you know what that is and when, and keep a physical folder or notebook with all your class materials in it, including paper to write on, and bring a writing instrument, a pen or a pencil, to every class. If I send you a text or assignment on email, print that up and bring it to class. All students will be expected to participate in various in-class assignments and exercises. There will be a lot of in-class assignments. So if you miss a class, you might miss an in-class assignment and there might not be any makeup for that. Some of these assignments and exercises will be to familiarize you with word games and experiments for creating creative works, to see what works and what doesn't. And some of these will be to test student visions of assignments they're developing. In other words, one of the expectations in this class is that you will perform as test subjects for each other. In some cases, students might be developing assignments or exercises for children or young adults, or even prisoners or students with special needs. So if that's the case, then you'll be asked to respond like the envisioned audience. Okay, the required texts. There's only one book required for this class, and it is Investigative Creative Writing by Mark Spitzer. Yes, I wrote this book. It came out a couple years ago. It's about teaching creative writing and teaching teachers to teach creative writing. So I'm totally qualified to teach this course. And it's not like I'm getting any royalties. I doubt I'll see, what, a few dollars from this class. It doesn't matter. I'm giving you this book because I know what's in this book. I've studied what's in this book, but that's not all you're going to get. But get the paperback, it's cheaper. Get it as fast as you can. Can you get Kindle? I guess so. I mean, as long as you got the text, fine. I don't know if it's published on Kindle or not. Okay, I'm also going to be sending you scans on your UCA email, or maybe I'll post them on Blackboard. But I'm going to be scanning other texts for you and sending them to you so that you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars more on textbooks. You're welcome. Grading. Participation is 25%. Assignments and extra credit, 25%. Group project, 25%. Final project, 25%. Final project is a final portfolio. I've got a rubric written on the syllabus that shows the numbers that correspond to the grades. And I only use this rubric for calculating final grades. This rubric is different than the 10-point system that a lot of teachers use, where 90 to 100% is an A, 80 to 90% is a B. This one is more like, this one ranges, an A plus is 98, an A minus is 92. Anyways, you'll be able to look at this rubric. It only differs by 2. And this is also pretty standard rubric that's used by teachers all over the world. But ultimately, grades will be rounded down rather than up. I only use these numbers and these grades in the very end when I'm putting everything together. Your assignments, your participation, you'll get like, say, an A minus for participation. You might not have got all your assignments in, so you might get a B plus. So I take all those numbers and I do all the calculating, which you will be able to see. Blackboard will not calculate it. I will calculate it. But, and so if you land on the fence between an A and a B, you're going to get a B in the course because A's are always totally clear to me. And if I have to ask myself if the person should be bumped up um, or knocked down a degree to on the other side of the fence to get the B, if I have to ask that question, you're going to get the lower grade. I'm sorry. There's grade inflation all over the world, and we've got to fight that. It's a war, people. It's a war. Okay. Um, Attending all classes and doing all the work is not enough to earn an A. You got to do exceptional work to get an A. But that doesn't mean the whole class can't get an A. I have taught classes where everybody's got an A because they did all fantastic work. That could happen here. Participation. Attendance affects participation. Since discussions, lectures, group activities, and in-class writing assignments are a major element of this course, you can only miss 4 in-person classes, unless that is COVID shuts us down or shuts individuals down or changes how we meet. In general, you've got 4 that you can miss. If school is operating on a regular in the classroom basis and you miss more than 4 classes, your participation percentage will begin to dwindle unless you can justify special circumstances, and even this is no guarantee. See me beforehand regarding any situations I should take into account. My advice is to never miss a class. If you want to do as well as you can, don't let any info pass you by, no matter how minor it is, or you think it is. If you miss a class, you might miss an in-class assignment. If you miss 4 days worth of classes during regular in-class operations, you might be dropped without notice and given a W. So if you're missing classes, write me and tell me why, or get somebody to write me and tell me why. Participation also includes a willingness to speak during class discussions as well as exuding a positive attitude. Cell phone distractions can lead to damaging participation points, and so can messing around on laptops or tablets at inappropriate times. Coming late to class can result in less participation points. There will be a group project and you will be expected to participate. If you don't, you will lose participation points. In the end, I will assign a grade for your overall participation based on the criteria above in comparison to your classmates. Assignments and extra credits. Assignments and extra credits earn check marks that correspond to a sliding scale that I develop at the end of the semester. If you do everything you're supposed to do, you get an A- for assignments and extra credit. If you do that and all the extra credits, which come around every once in a while, you get an A+ in that category. If you fall somewhere in between, you get an A. If you do all your assignments except one, you get a B+ in assignments and extra credit. If you do all your assignments -2, you get a B. -3 equals B-, and so on. So basically each one you miss, you go down a notch. So if you miss stuff, pick up an extra credit to keep that part of your grade as healthy as possible. Late assignments will not be accepted, and I will not accept assignments over Google Drive or email unless you're directed to email an assignment to me. Group project. You'll be doing a group project at some point. It will be an interview based on a published collection of creative writing pedagogy essays. You will each be assigned a chapter to read, and you will each interview the editor of the book about your chapter and transcribe a question and answer for the communal interview. We will edit the interview together. We will run it by the interviewee, and I will send the interview out for publication. It is very likely that you will then have a co-publication as a result of being in this class. I've done this many times through the years. It always works. I always find somebody to publish your words, and then you have something. Not only did you take the class and learn stuff, you've got something on your resume or CV. So congrats on that. Final project. The guidelines for the final project will be handed out and discussed in class. The final project will involve observing a creative writing teacher, then interviewing that writing teacher, and revising the interview into a published form. The other part of your final project will be to develop your own creative writing assignment or exercise and translate that into a format based on a formal model which I will provide. These formal models will all be in the book, Investigative Creative Writing by Mark Spitzer. So you can look at, that's another reason you're going to need this book. Additionally, so there's two things that are going to be in the final project. There's going to be the interview that you do and an assignment that you create. But the grad students will also have to write a short academic paper of 3 to 5 pages regarding pedagogical theory and or creative writing history that's relevant to the assignment or exercise that you created. So grad students, you're going to have to rattle off a bunch of theory in the end and write a short paper. The due date for the final project is going to be Thursday, May 5th for the grad students and Wednesday, May 4th for the undergrads. These times may not correspond to the official UCA final exam schedule, but that's the time your final project is due, May 5th and May 4th. There will be no final exam in this class, just the final portfolio. If you assume that the final project is due on the day the class supposedly has a final exam, then you're going to be bumming. Okay, then I've got a schedule on the syllabus. The schedule is not written in stone. It may or may not change. It is a general guide. I won't go over this schedule here. You can look at it when I post the syllabi. Week 11 is spring break. We might have a remote learning class period the week before that, the 10th week. Yeah, spring break is March 21st through 25th. Anyways, I will announce assignments every week. A note on personal pronouns, gender identity, and identity in general. If you want to be called her or him or them or something else, send me an email if this concerns you, and we'll discuss the options for either informing the class or not. I want to be sensitive to such issues, and I expect all students in this class to respect each other. Everyone in this class should feel comfortable and valued. This is important. And these days, pronouns are part of the equation. Inclement weather policy. If the campus is open, we will meet for class. If the campus is closed, we will not meet for class. Check the homepage at uca.edu. To find out if school is open. Evaluations, this is all the technical stuff at the end of the syllabus. Do them if you want. I don't care. You can do them on my UCA at the end of the semester. Drop policy. You are advised to familiarize yourself with the university calendar if you want to get money back or partial money back for dropping class. If you go missing from my class for 4 classes, I'll assume you quit. I may drop you without any notification if you do not show up for 4 classes, consecutive or not, or if you have frequent absences. This has hardly ever happened and is basically reserved for problem students to give us a way out of having to deal with problem students who just won't fix their ways. And we don't need to deal with that. UCA policy on disabilities. If you have a disability, let me know. If you have a disability, let the Office of Disability Service know. Their phone number is on the syllabus. University Counseling Center is free and open to all students. If you need, if a reason should arise, go to them, use their services. They'll help a brother or sister out. UCA policy on sexual harassment. Do not sexually harass anybody. Duh. Okay, say you don't know what sexual harassment is, or you don't know the lines between stuff. Well, figure it out. Get online, do something, because this is serious stuff. I mean, you got to be careful. You can't be telling somebody they look hot. You can't be you know saying semi-sexist things. So if you can't figure it out, you're in trouble. Um, See the Title IX disclosure for further information at uca.edu/Title1X. Plagiarism. The University of Central Arkansas will not tolerate plagiarism. See the student handbook policy. You, if you got any question, if something is appropriated or if it's stolen, considering what you want to do with somebody's quote, then ask me. Basically, if you use somebody's words, you need to put quotation marks around it and and say what the source is, or you just need to, if you paraphrase something, you've got to say where the source is. Um, this is I mean, if I find out that you intentionally copied somebody's words and are trying to claim credit for it, I'm gonna have to report you, and you're gonna fail the assignment or fail the class. If you accidentally plagiarize something, that happens more than not. That also has its consequences. So if you've got any questions, just ask me, or see the student handbook. Emergency procedures. We're going to be in room 104. Um, the biggest emergency, the most popular emergency procedure these days is, of course, active shooter. If we should get an alert that there's a threat, we will lock down in our classroom, close the doors, lock the doors, all the doors, pull the shades, um, if and we're just going to hunker down and listen to stay tuned to our cell phones until it's over. Hopefully that'll never happen. Inclement weather, if there's a tornado, threatening storm, um, we go out into the main lobby. We do not go in the stairwells. We do not go in the bathrooms. We stay in the main lobby, first floor, until that threat is over. If there's a fire alarm, we grab our stuff, or we don't grab our stuff, but we get the hell out of the room. And we go and we meet by the fountain. Just get out if there's a fire alert or something. That's where we all meet, and I need to account for everybody there. A note on grades, blah, 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 you can read that. The syllabus is subject to change. Any changes will be announced in class. Disruptive behavior will result in removal from the classroom, being dropped from the class with a W. It's never happened in any of my classes in 20 years of teaching. Could happen though. People are really on edge these days. Cell phones are not to be operated during class. Turn them off. Now, if like you're a mom and you've got like kids and you're waiting for somebody to pick them up at school and you need to know, just let me know and I'll cut you some slack or something. You and let you go out in the hallway or let you monitor your phone or whatever. If there's a reason to monitor your cell phone, let me know. Okay, cool. Finally, no guns in class, even with a permit. That's that. No guns in class. So sue me. Okay, let's get on uh, to the lecture now. I got a short lecture for you, and then I'm going to give you your assignment. Um, lecture is, that's a threatening word. Um, let's just call it a talk. I'm gonna talk to you. Anyways, I'm gonna give you an overview of the history of creative writing in the United States specifically. Um, this is part of the requirement of the class is that you're going to learn some history of creative writing and some history of the teaching of creative writing. So take notes on this because if you have questions, others will too. And I'm going to reserve some time at the beginning of the next class for you guys to ask any questions you have. Now, it's especially important for graduate students to take notes, and especially when I mention names. If you hear a name, a teacher, a practitioner, somebody who's influential, write that down because, like I said, you guys, you grad students, are going to have to write a paper that incorporates some theory, and so names are part. Names will lead you to more theory that you're going to have to look up on your own. Okay, the term creative writing is, of course, a redundant term since the word writing is a creative process. Nevertheless, that's the term that encompasses what you're studying now and most likely going for an academic degree in. The term was first employed by Emerson in 1837. Creative writing is generally considered a post-war term to cover the idea of writing literary works that include genres of poetry, fiction, creative nonfiction, drama writing, hybrid writing, literary journalism, etc. The idea is that creative writing has some foundation in the concept of the imagination. It doesn't have some foundation. It is founded in the imagination, and that it distinguishes itself from technical writing, reporting, college writing, composition, academic writing, and other types of writing that are not associated with the arts. Creative writing is typified by a focus on narrative craft, self-expression, character development, employing poetic and literary traditions and approaches, etc. Creative writing developed from writing, which finds its roots in the early sermons of Western expansion on the east coast of this continent, which basically these writings were basically essays focused on morality designed for church-going folks before the United States even had an identity. Basically, the settlers brought this communication tool over from Europe and began innovating on already established literary traditions in a wilderness-based society whose only previous narrations were founded in the oral traditions, including song, hieroglyphs, petroglyphs, and the like of the indigenous people who were here before Whitey came along. These days, creative writing programs have found their way into K through 12 educational systems, but are much more prevalent at the college level. Creative writing programs are typically found in English departments, but are sometimes found in hybrid departments, communications or journalism departments, schools of the humanities or liberal arts or letters, or writing departments. There are also a number of explicit creative writing departments established on their own. Standard degrees include BAs, BFAs, MFAs, MAs, and PhDs. MFA is the most popular employable degree these days. The PhD programs are usually programs in literature that include a creative dissertation option. There are some creative writing programs exclusively established for prisoners and children as well. The idea of the workshop is central to the study of creative writing. As you know, that's when students read each other's works and offer their opinions for revision. There's a lot of debate about whether creative writing can really be taught and if the workshop is effective, which we'll be looking at. According to D.G. Myers, that's Myers, noted pedagogy specialist in the field, the institutionalization of creative writing arose during a 60-year period from 1880 to 1940 as an effort to reform the study of literature. It is the integration of literary study with literary practice, which pretty much still holds true. Literary study and literary practice. According to Myers, back in the 1890s, literature was conceived as a source of knowledge about language or as backgrounds to reading. Generally speaking, literature wasn't studied as a discipline in itself, which could enable its students, if they possessed the necessary talent, to do something in literature. The university study of literature included neither the practice of writing nor any account of how literary texts are created. The creative or constructive aspects of literature, as they came to be known, were the province of rhetoric, but rhetoric was not literature. Okay, that's mostly Myers' quote. Okay, so that's how creative writing was looked at in the 1890s. Then philology came along. I was going to write this on the board, but I don't have a board behind me, so I'll spell it out for you. Philology. Basically, it's the philosophical science of art. It's philosophy, it's humanities. Philology is an early term for literary philosophy. Anyways, philology came around and decided to fix the divide between looking at lit like a bunch of facts and actually practicing it. At that time, this new subject was not called creative writing, it was called English composition. Then, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, English composition at Harvard became recognized as a precedent for creative writing. Harvard faculty allowed students to write poems and stories for credit. Then came Barrett, Barrett, Wendell, just like it sounds with two L's at the end, who joined the faculty, called himself a creative writer, a la 1886, and began encouraging the study of writing, especially fiction, for publication. Thus, writing was now being taught as something different than rhetoric and philology. As Myers explains, Wendell set out to conduct an educational experiment, the aim of which was to enable everyday students to write with habitual and unpretentious skill, common language, while exceptional pupils would become skillful creative artists. He did this primarily by getting students to keep writing journals and produce daily themes of self-expression combined with observation that were agreeable to read. So I guess he was having people just like write these little ditties about what they observed. By the end of that century, Wendell's concept of writing, literature being not a body of knowledge but rather a productive activity, became the dominant academic mode in English composition up until the 1920s. That's when the term creative writing established itself as a discipline rooted in the university system. The term became popular thanks to author Hughes Mearns, Mearns, a self-styled writing man who looked at the idea of teaching English as not a branch of study, but rather something that comes out of the everyday activities of our children, something called forth by the actual needs of everyday expression. That's why there's this poetic association with the idea of being an English major instead of the idea of being someone with an English major being somebody with a technical exactitude about commas and stuff. In other words, the study of English, especially in terms of using the language to create literature, sort of became something like the idea of personal growth in the early 20th century, geared toward generating personality in a way that was aware of the literary traditions that preceded it. In Mearns' view, writing came first, reading second. and he defined creative writing as a new term for a very old art. Creative writing then became an integrated approach to the study of reading and the practice of writing, in which literary inquiry was motivated and guided by a desire not merely to know what good poems are, but also to write them to know what makes them good. By 1931, 41 colleges and universities had creative writing in their curriculums. That's when Norman Forrester, Forrster, assumed the directorship of the School of Letters at the U of Iowa, which was set up to foster and develop the common areas of literary study. According to Myers again, Forrester had a plan for doing just this. Only a year before, in a brief polemic he named the American Scholar, he had set forth a scheme of education and letters. In 14 years at Iowa, between 1930 and 1944, Forrester worked to put his scheme into effect. His vision was to re-emphasize the neglected areas of literary study and in doing so restore the traditional alliance of scholarship and criticism, the divorce of which has worked injury to both and played havoc with education. Or, in other words, his mission was to break the stranglehold of philology and historical research over the academic study of literature. So basically, he merged criticism with creative writing. Still, criticism would be the senior partner. Essentially, the aim was comprehension. Creative writing was an effort of critical understanding conducted from within the conditions of literary practice, because the writer needs the mind of a critic. It was to be a branch of literary study designated for all types of literary students, critics, writers, scholars, and teachers. The aim was also to develop a whole set of powers in these writers: aesthetic responsiveness, the ability to handle ideas, in some, the critical sense. I guess that means the idea was to hone the critical sense. Creative writing was then used as a machine for turning out professional writers, and according to Myers, the symbol for this was the MFA degree. As for the University of Iowa's famous Writers' Workshop, they had a history that set a precedent for formally founding their graduate program in 1936. The institution had offered verse writing courses as early as 1897 and began accepting creative theses in 1922. Starting around 1941, however, the Iowa Writers' Workshop gained a national reputation as the premier program of its kind. It grew and grew with concentrations in fiction and poetry. You can't do both at that university. You have to pick fiction or poetry. Their graduate nonfiction writing program was established in the 70s as its own department, separate from the heralded Writers' Workshop. But there's a connection between faculty, students, classes. If you ask me, though, the Writers' Workshop at the University of Iowa is overrated. It's been held as the gold standard for decades, but it's not really that innovative a program. It trains students to compete extremely fiercely with each other in the realms of mainstream fiction and poetry. And if you make it through without a mental breakdown, it pretty much guarantees that graduates in fiction will be able to secure literary agents. Still, it's mostly about catering techniques of craft to New York publishers, this is my view, who supply demand for what's popular in literature, not what pushes literature to become more progressive. There are plenty of overlooked hidden gem programs in creative writing all over the country that focus on braver, bolder, more interesting trends in voice and style. But because Iowa was the first program of its kind in the country with a lot of highly prestigious faculty members and students to boast about, this program is still getting more attention than it deserves. What's most important about this program is that it provided a model for the workshop to deviate from in this country and evolve into myriad other forms. Also, the Iowa Writers' Workshop established a baseline for programs that the UK and other countries based their own programs on, so its influence was global. By the 1960s and 70s, creative writing had achieved its full growth as a discipline at the University of Iowa. According to the AWP, the Association for Writing and Writing Programs, degree programs in creative writing have increased from 79 in 1975 to 790 in 2008, all at a time when reading is decreasing by tens of thousands of readers per year. So as writing programs are rising, readers are decreasing, which is a strange correlation. These programs, however, are increasingly valued by other disciplines, as Steve Healy, Healey, as he notes, they're used as a productive force in the post-industrial knowledge economy. Post-industrial knowledge economy. The new technical economy, basically. According to Healy, defenders often argue that creative writing thrives as a humanistic alternative to a cliché-saturated consumer culture and to a specialized jargon-ridden liberal arts culture. As Healy also says, being skilled at using language creatively has become a valuable asset for a wide range of jobs. He cites the reason for this as being that globalization is changing the US from an industrial material economy into a creative immaterial economy, and adds that an increasing number of American workers are valued not for their ability to produce things, but to produce concepts, emotions, lifestyles, and experiences. And there's a new flexible workplace that rewards imagination and communication. The skills that have the most value in the new economy are often those practiced in this academic field, including the ability to manipulate language, to affect audiences in powerful ways, and to craft evocative stories, characters, images, and voices. There's also a sort of escapism built into studying creative writing, as in escape from the commercial corporate culture that values science and business and data-driven skill sets and places creative writers on the margins of societies and makes them seem like dreamers, outsiders, and rebels. Therefore, many students gravitate toward creative writing as an alternative to drudgery. Those are Healy's words. Healy also proposes that the familiar opposition between cultivated humanism and vulgar marketplace, between impractical creativity and practical profitability, is rapidly disappearing, and this disappearance has contributed to the creative writing boom. But as Myers argues, creative writing forgot its original purpose, losing its early pedagogical mission and its ties to literary tradition, becoming a greedy system of patronage focused on professionalizing itself to consolidate institutional power. Meanwhile, the arguments rage on both sides, some defending the rise of creative writing, others attacking its achievements in academia. It should also be noted that what critics often forget is that the vast majority of undergraduate and graduate creative writing students never publish a book or become a teacher. Instead, they move into other fields that harness creative literacy to produce concepts, emotions, and lifestyles, including radical brand identities. Radical brand identities. What does that mean? What does radical brand identities mean? Okay, think about that and pose that in the next class if you've got an answer. Regardless of all these debates, though, Harvard Business Review published an article in 2004 entitled, "The MFA is the New MBA." This article rightly proclaimed that an arts degree is now perhaps the hottest credential in the world of business, which is now established as fact. In fact, the MFA isn't just the hottest credential in the world of business, it's the hottest credential in the whole damn world. Having designed our department's degree programs in creative writing, and having studied this issue closely over the last decade and a half, I can point to mucho evidence that creative communicators are in demand in this increasingly high-tech computer software, website, digital graphics-driven, can I have another narrative please marketplace. And there are all sorts of recent articles that establish that this sector of the workplace, which is made up of creative individuals who know how to connect with their audiences, is the fastest growing, most lucrative growth force in the developing world. Some of this has to do with an overarching need for advertising which appeals to people's emotions. Thus, and because there's all these commercial entities out there that need advertising. Graphic artists, people who can tell stories, people who can edit, they're all in demand. Some of this has to do with an overarching need. Okay. Thus, this era has been termed the new age of creativity due to the amount of authors who now create content and are in demand by government, private, enterprise, and the teaching and editing Goliaths that require a workforce to propel themselves ever forward. Subsequently, the MFA degree has also been called the most highly prized commodity in our economy. Richard Florida's book, The Rise of the Creative Class, remarks that creative workers are a new dominating class of labor who, by the turn of the century, included nearly a third of the workforce and who generate nearly half of all wage and salary income in the United States. Other documents concur. The new creative workforce is in demand and it is the fastest growing sector of economies in the developing world, and the MFA is the ticket to ride. There's a lot of demand for this degree. There's a lot you can do with an MFA. But let's take a step back to 1967 when the AWP, or Association of Writers and Writing Programs, was established as a nonprofit organization. It was created by 15 writers in 13 programs to address academic resistance to such programs and to advocate for new programs and to provide publishing opportunities for young writers. The AWP holds a national conference every year, which usually brings in over 10,000 students, teachers, writers, readers, publishers, editors, all sorts of institutions, and people in the field to network and connect. They have a massive book fair. They publish the Writer's Chronicle. They provide scholarships and educational opportunities. They list jobs in the field and include missions of diversity and outreach. They're also a lot more international. They are a lot more international than their title suggests. Their title is American, but they have members from other countries, making the AWP a global organization. According to their website, AWP provides support, advocacy, resources, and community to nearly 50,000 writers, 550 college and university creative writing programs, and 150 writers, conferences, and centers. Their mission is to amplify voices of writers in the academic programs and organizations that serve them while championing diversity and excellence in creative writing. According to a 2016 article in The Atlantic, today there are more than 350 creative writing programs in the US alone, and that number doubles if you include undergraduate degree programs. It's estimated that creative writing currently contributes more than $200 million a year in revenue to universities in the US. However, this article found that 96% of the characters in current novels are male. So therefore, this article concluded that the intensity with which readers and critics feel and think about the MFA, we might assume, has become disconnected from its moderate to minimal effects on the literary landscape in America. So it seems to us that the MFA doesn't merit many of the hyperbolic claims about its impact on literature. $200 million per year, after all, is a high price to pay for very little measurable impact. Hence, the jury is still out, and that jury is you. Okay, that's your history of creative writing in the United States. Give me any questions next time. This is your assignment for next time. I want you to read pages 117 to 137 in Investigative Creative Writing by Mark Spitzer. Read pages 117 to 137 and undergrads, write a 250-word sentence, and graduate students write a 500-word sentence. Yes, write a sentence of either 250 or 500 words on your response to this chapter. Do not be afraid to challenge me. Do not be afraid to rant or rail, if you like. or just offer your opinions, but whatever. Use a lot of commas, use a lot of dashes, only use one period, write one. Okay, I got cut off there, but the point is, write that sentence and submit it on Blackboard before the next class. Um, it might take me a day to get the assignment up on Blackboard, um, but you just go to the assignment, put put your answer in there. Do not write your assignments on Blackboard. Write them on a computer so you can cut and paste them in later, um, because then you got your backup. Okay, that's it. See you next time. See you in class. Bring any questions you have. I look forward to seeing you in real time. Bye.